trying my best to like be forgiving of it. Her dad went missing and this guy keeps trying to like profess his love. I feel like I did pretty good with what I have in my closet.
I like your hair.
Hey, I'm Belle. Welcome back to another reading vlog. I'm going to be going to a birthday party today that is like emo aesthetic themed, so we're all going to dress up like the emo aesthetic. I'm also going to be reading this book that I'm super excited to read. I was totally influenced into buying this book. It's becoming a pattern this year where I don't typically buy books. I am through and through a library girl. I kept seeing book reviews for this book that described it as Studio Ghibli-esque, and I'm a huge Studio Ghibli stan. If you're not familiar with Studio Ghibli, it's this animation studio that is known for its very fantastical, whimsical movies. They're all super aesthetic and have super pretty colors, and they have really awesome music scores. I feel like they're known for capturing childlike innocence, and they all have like this nostalgic feel to them. So I'm really hoping that this book captures all of that. I think it'll be really interesting to see how it does do that, because there's not going to be like any visuals, no music, right? I'm really going to have to rely on the descriptions in the text to invoke those pictures in my mind. I think that's kind of like a lot to ask of this book, but I believe in it. I think it can do that. The book, by the way, is called Watermoon. This book follows the main character who takes over her family's pawn shop, but this is no regular pawn shop. In this pawn shop, people trade in their regrets for something else. On the day that she's supposed to take over her family's pawn shop, her dad goes missing. And what's also very interesting about this pawn shop is that typically when people pass by the exterior of the pawn shop, they see a very popular ramen shop. People will line up for this ramen restaurant, and when they enter the ramen restaurant, if the pawn shop chooses you, when you walk into the ramen restaurant, you'll actually end up in the pawn shop. So the pawn shop kind of chooses people to present itself to, and people are given the opportunity to trade in their regrets or other past decisions that they've made that have probably impacted their life a lot for something else. So I just think that that's like a really cool concept. I think as someone, who has her regrets in life too, I think it'll be really interesting to see how this book explores like the theme of like regret. Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens in this story. And also I'm just really excited to chill this weekend and hang out with my family. And yeah, I'm gonna take you along. I'll be doing like some other things. Right now I have to go to the gym and then the grocery store to prep some things for the birthday party. And then hopefully after I do all of that, I'll have some time to read. Okay, so I don't know where my whole morning went, but I went to the gym, did some groceries, and I haven't even started making the food that I was going to bring for the emo party. I'm going to be bringing some kimbap. That's gonna take a while to prepare, so I have about like an hour to chill and read, but I did want to share my emo fit. I feel like I did pretty good with what I have in my closet. So this shirt is actually kind of funny because I made this t-shirt with my friends in college. We had this running joke that we're all part of this fake band. Like we all had our different roles. I think I'm the singer, and I even have like a stage name. So my stage name is Cadence. Anyway, so it's funny that I have an opportunity to wear this shirt again because I never really wear it. I also just want to like preserve it because it's not made like out of like the most expensive material. Now I'm gonna try to read as much as possible, and then I'm gonna make the kimbap, and will bring you along with me to this emo party. I'm about 10 chapters into the story so far, and so far not much has happened. Basically all that has happened is everything I explained in the beginning of this video. Like we're just getting like the backstory of the pawn shop, and the main character's dad just disappeared. We are being introduced to a new character. I think this is like the main character's love interest. I'm not sure how I feel about it so far. The romance feels a little bit insta-lovey. We'll just have to see how the potential romance plays out. I also don't know if I quite get Studio Ghibli vibes from the writing. I kind of expected more like flowery writing. The writing right now seems a little bit choppy. Like even the chapters in this book are very short and quick. Even though I'm at chapter 10 right now, I'm like only about like 50 pages into the story. Yeah, I kind of expected more like lyrical, like long sentences, I guess, for a story that is described as Studio Ghibli-esque. But we'll just have to see how like the writing develops and how like the flow actually works out in the end. And yeah, I'm pretty excited to get back to reading the story when I get back from the party. Okay, emo fit. You have to, you do like a fit check. Okay, where's the shirt from?
The shirt's from Bookish Box, I think.
Okay.
The Monsters. Dress from Uniqlo.
Okay.
Socks from Amazon.
What am I doing?
No more like one any Francine.
The same. The red ones are strawberry. I like your hair.
I'll clear it.
So I'm about halfway through the book and I figured I should probably do a little reading update. I gotta say, I really don't like the romance. I feel like it's really distracting me and taking me out of the story. I'm trying my best to like be forgiving of it, especially just the fact that it was just so like insta-lovey. Like immediately the main character's love interest was like, oh my god, I'm in love with you. And I love a good simp, but he's just like too much of a simp. I also feel like the love interest is almost being used as like a device for the author to explain the world that the main character is from. Basically, what we learn very early on in the story, so I don't feel like it's a spoiler, but what we learn at the beginning of the story is that the main character is from a different world from us, and the main character's love interest is from our world. So basically, he joins the main character on her quest to find her dad, and on this quest, they go to different parts of the main character's world. So understandably, he would have a lot of questions about how her world works because it just does not follow like the same laws of physics as our world. It's a lot more fantastical, right? But something I'm not really a big fan of in this book is that I feel like a lot of the world building is presented to us through dialogue instead of through more maybe like descriptive text. Like I feel like there's like a fine balance for fantasy books where they kind of have to like build a world for us without info dumping, and there's like different ways to go about that. But I just feel like a lot of this world that we're learning about is being like introduced to us through dialogue. Something about it feels like kind of convenient and feels almost like I'm being cheated out of something. I think I just kind of expected more kind of like descriptive text, and I was just kind of looking forward to maybe like really like pretty like lyrical writing. And I feel like with like the dialogue, it just feels a little bit choppy. That being said, I really do enjoy the world that the author is building for us, but I just kind of feel like all of that is getting a little bit lost in the romance. Now that I'm thinking about it, I also just feel like I don't really know the main characters that well. Like I feel like they're missing like a certain depth to them, but I don't know. I'm hoping that like the last half of the book will just like make me eat my words, you know? Like there'll be something really good that happens, or there'll be things that change my mind. We will just have to see where the story goes. We are in The final countdown, the last part of the book. I gotta say, I have to just ignore the romance. I have gotten to a point where I can't accept it, so I'm just going to ignore that it's happening. And don't get me wrong, I do love a good romance. I just can't get into this one for some reason. I think I just didn't go into this book thinking that there would be one, even though rereading the synopsis of the book, it was hinting that there would be a romance. But something about it is just too much for me. I just am a little bit annoyed at the male love interest, and I feel like I don't typically get that annoyed at like the love interest. I'm usually like rooting for them and I want the best for the love interest and the main character, but I don't know, it's just a little bit too cheesy, and like some of the lines are kind of cringe, and I think it's just because of the pacing and like the timing of it all. It just happened so suddenly, and also like the main character is going through a lot right now. Like her dad went missing and this guy keeps trying to like profess his love to this girl that he just met. Bro, can you chill for like 1 second? That being said, once I decided to just ignore the romance, I have to say that like everything else that is happening in the story is quite enjoyable. I do get like the Studio Ghibli vibes from these different worlds that the author is describing. They all have something like very interesting or quirky about them. For example, in the main character's world, there's this train station where people wait for their trains, but the catch is there's no schedule for the trains, so people will just wait their whole lives for a train to come by because they don't know when it's gonna come. I'm pretty excited to see how it's all going to wrap up. And I did want to mention actually that there is a part like actually somewhere like in the beginning of the story where the main character, or like one of the characters, said something about Studio Ghibli. Just reading that in the book made me think that like the author was definitely inspired by like a Studio Ghibli film for sure when creating this book. Hello. Okay, so final thoughts on Watermoon. Last night I finished the book and I think that I would rate it a 3.5 stars. I think it's a little bit more deserving than just a 3 stars, but it's not quite like at the 4-star level. Like 4-star books are books that are almost 5 stars, you know what I mean? I think that there are a lot of things that worked for me, but there were some things that were a little too glaringly not working for me, like the romance and some of the writing. I think I just couldn't really quite get into. But I do see how this book could appeal to a lot of readers, and I could easily see it being a comfort book for a lot of readers, especially if you are a fan of Studio Ghibli. I think at the end of the day, I did get Studio Ghibli vibes from this book, so I think that was a success. I think maybe the execution was maybe not quite as what I expected. It was maybe more of an expectation thing. That's kind of more on me, you know? Towards the end of the book, there were some plot twists and some revelations that I thought were pretty good, pretty spicy. They did make me a little bit more forgiving towards the romance. Everything seemed to click a little bit better towards the end of the book. I think that if you are like me and you pick up this book and you feel like you're not feeling the romance, it's okay, I understand you. It will make a little bit more sense at the end. You just kind of have to like ignore it until the very end. Definitely, I think I would still recommend this book if you are in the Southern Hemisphere and you're getting into like fall, winter. This would be an awesome book to pick up, I think. I hope that I didn't like dissuade or like I hope that I didn't influence people not to pick up this book, because overall like reading is a very subjective experience. I think it's still worth a shot, if not just to have it in your collection. It's just such a pretty book. If you watched this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I would always love to know your thoughts, any thoughts that you have. I feel a little bit bad because I actually read a couple of 5-star books right before this book, and I was really hoping that this book would be 5 stars too. So I guess I just had like a little bit too many expectations going into this book, that it just wasn't the book's fault. It's all on me. I take responsibility. Thank you so much for watching.